Well, we're going to go ahead and get started, and I'm going to welcome everybody to this great experience tonight with Roshanda Spears and her lineup of phenomenal guests who are going to all be concentrating tonight on why we dance, the history of West African dance tonight. And these workshops are designed here to make you understand the incredible talent that comes from the alumni of Northwest Louisiana's great HBCUs, that's historically Black colleges and universities. I'm Pam Atchison with the Shreveport Regional Arts Council, and before we get everything started tonight, I want you to meet the multi-talented, award-winning dance artist Roshanda Dimitri Spears. I call her Roshanda D. She's been moving to her own beat since she was 5 years old when her structured dance lessons began. And that's when her career began in West African dance, tap, jazz, ballet, and modern dance while she was in Los Angeles, California. Roshanda has performed in a lot of different venues, including commercials, plays, musicals, and movies, and she considers herself one who migrated to Shreveport, Louisiana. We'll explore that definition of migration a little bit later, but however she got here, we couldn't be more thrilled that Roshanda's career has stayed on point. She's been working in a host of Shreveport area venues. She works with the Shreveport Regional Arts Council. Yay, that's us. She works in schools, in dance studios, and in universities teaching choreography. She is the owner of Shuffling Along Dance Company and the foundation as well, where she instructs private dance lessons and choreography for churches, weddings, plays, dance lines, dance studios, special events, commercials, and movies. Roshanda has served as the dance professor at Southern University of Shreveport for 9 years, and I did not start off by telling you she is a graduate of Grambling State University. So tonight we're going to understand that she's also the resident choreographer for Mahogany Ensemble Theater. She's the dance instructor and choreographer for Shreveport Little Theater and the founding executive director, as I already said, for Shuffling Along Dance Foundation and Performing Arts Scholarship Fund. And again, tonight, our big program that we're so excited to learn about with her guest speakers is Why We Dance, the History of West African Dance. Let's begin. And while we're getting that to begin, working with our technology, I'll take a moment. No, I won't. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Rachel. And good evening, everyone. Good evening, good evening. Come on in some more, Luther. Luther trying to act like he's scared of me, y'all. Good evening, and welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so very excited. Tonight, we have two special guests with us. And while I begin, Rachel, you can go ahead and get the slideshow prepared because I'm ready to rock and roll. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Good evening again, and welcome to the HBCU Homecoming 2020 SUSLA GSU Artist Reunion Zoom Masterclass Series. Tonight's workshop, Why We Dance, the history of West African dance. This series sponsors are the National Endowment of the Arts, AT&T, Shreveport Regional Arts Council, the City of Shreveport, the Carolyn W. and Charles T. Baird Family Foundation. Tonight's panelists are Felicia B. Spears and Luther Cox Jr. Felicia B. Spears, a native of Los Angeles, California, is the founder and executive artistic director of Grassroots Dance Theater Incorporated. As an artist activist, she has traveled the world dancing and choreographing, as well as performed and starred in a host of movies and TV shows. Luther Cox Jr. has been teaching dance in Shreveport since 1975. He is a graduate of Florida A&M University, where he was first introduced to modern dance as a concert art form. He is currently artistic director of Intercity Row Modern Dance Company in Shreveport, Louisiana. So I would just like to welcome our guest again. And before we get started with our conversation and videos, let's go ahead and hit our first introductory video, Rachel.
C'est du rythme. Toutes les choses, c'est du rythme.
Thank you, Rachel. Wonderful. So I just want to I wanted to play that so everyone could get into the mood and into the feeling of what we're doing. And so that you can see and know that rhythm is what? Rhythm is all around you. Rhythm is your walk. Rhythm is your talk. Rhythm is how you smile. Rhythm is your style. Okay, your swag. Isn't that right, Mr. Moss? I see you. So that is what we're here to talk about because we exude rhythm. Okay, we were born rhythmically. It took rhythm to make us, you know, so this is where we are. And I'm so very excited, again, to have with me Luther Cox Jr. and Felicia B. Spears. And we're gonna get started with Luther first. So Luther, come on and scoot in some and be my friend. I want you to tell us a little bit more about yourself so people can get a good idea of who Luther Cox Jr. really is.
Well, I don't usually talk about myself, but it takes a little effort for me to do that. However, grew up in Lakeside, Allendale, uh, could really, really dance. All the latest dances, the funky chicken, the doll, the bump, the swim, the mashed potatoes, the James Brown. Well, then after high school, still not knowing anything existed in dance other than ballet and tap. And I wasn't going to take ballet because if you took ballet, you were sissy or you were gay or something like that. So I was already fighting enough in school, so I wasn't going to add to that by taking dance. But anyway, when I graduated from high school, I got a scholarship to Florida A&M University in Tallahassee. And that was the beginning of my introduction to dance. It was in my sophomore year. Uh, I was 18 or 19, and I was looking for a quiet place to study. So I went into one of the theaters on campus, and all of a sudden I heard dance, I heard drummers coming onto the stage.
Okay.
And then I saw dancers. Now, the dancers were scantily dressed. And so they were doing what I would call at that particular time gyrations,
Okay.
better known as isolations.
Gotcha.
But I looked at that and I said, oh, I can do that because I came from Louisiana and I know I can dance. And I went to the instructor after that and I told them the name of the dance was called Hymenoctron. It was a ritualistic dance where they were sacrificing a virgin to the gods. And I wanted to do that dance. So I went to her and I said, I want to do that dance. And she said, well, if you want to do that dance, you have to join the Arkesis Club. Down here, we say Arkesis, but in Florida, they say Arkesis Club.
Okay.
And I said, well, no, I don't want to join the club. I just want to do that dance because I can do that dance. And that was the beginning of my journey in dance. I'm a very basically astute person. I'm in a sense driven. I love dance. I love all music. Doesn't matter what kind of music it is, but I love all music, and I think I get that from my mother. And she was the one that would always urge me in the community to show the people how good you dance. Show them, show them. And I would be like, oh, come on, Mom, I don't want to do that. But because she was my mother, I would go ahead and do it. And that started me on my journey.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Luther. You said a lot that I didn't know about. Okay, so Felicia, go ahead and talk to us a little bit about who you are so that they know who you are.
I'm Felicia Spears, and I'm born, raised in Los Angeles, California, at the General Hospital. So that's a monument, you know, in Los Angeles. I was second to the oldest of 7 children. And my love for dance started on musical theater, with musical theater. I grew up in the era where you had Bill Bojangles Robinson, Catherine Dunham, Cab Calloway, and they were just dancing, and the Bayard, the Nichols brothers, they were tap dancing and doing all this stuff. And I was always in the front of the TV, just trying to do everything. So my father sent me to Al Gilbert's in Beverly Hills to study tap and ballet, of course. And at that time, it wasn't many Blacks in the class. You know, it was just me and another little girl that was Black taking tap. And Al Gilbert saw that I can pick up real fast, and he wanted me to tap dance with Sammy Davis Jr. Now, I was a new booty in the crowd. And word got around. It was supposed to be hush hush, but word got around and everybody got mad because, no, my daughter's been taking class longer and everything. So I didn't get a chance to do it, but he wanted me to tap dance with Sammy Davis because I was a natural. I picked up real fast. So after that, but anyway, Catherine Dunham was my mentor for me to dance. And I grew up in high school, In high school, I went to Locke High School. At first, I went to Westchester, which that was during the busing period, and blacks was bused to the other schools. But they didn't have dance, and I got a little mad, you know, so I ended up at Locke High School, and that was in South Central Los Angeles. And I was so glad to attend Locke High School because we had dance, drumming, all this music. You know, Patrice Rushen went to Locke, everybody, Dougal Chandler, everybody went to Locke, you know. And Dr. Latham was my dance teacher, and she was a good friend of Alvin Ailey. And just before the end of the summer season, beginning of the summer season, Alvin Ailey would bring his group to come and work with us every year. And she saw to us having tickets to see Alvin Ailey. And she made sure that we went to see him, and I was just loving it. I was loving it. So also, I'm switching up now. My mother, at 12 years old, my mom took me to the Dorothy Chandler Pavilion to look at the National Ballet of Senegal. And I was only 12, and it was a nice big pavilion downtown Los Angeles. And I'm telling you, they had the African dancers, the stilt man, all the masquerade, and all the instruments on stage. And I was in awe. I was just in awe. And so that's the kind of thing that got me going into dance.
Okay, good. So Rachel, you can go ahead and show that first video, and then we'll have some dialogue on it after it's done. All right, yes. So now let's dive in. Let's talk about the origins of West African dance. And so Luther, I'm gonna go ahead and let you kick us off.
Well, there's a simple definition, I think, to the origin of African dance. And I mean, if you want a full in-depth definition, then, you know, you can start with all of that if you want to. But again, as long as there have been Africa, there have been African dance. And the reason that we dance is because it's in our blood. Most of us don't realize it. Everybody has rhythm, as Roshanda said earlier. But in actuality, it is in our blood because that is a part of where we came from. If you want a more technical definition, then it would be because it is our heritage. It is simply our heritage. For most of us, when it comes to dance, all we have to do is watch.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Right.
and then we can do it. But we are drawn to any form of rhythm. A lot of times that when we're doing certain items, like if we're washing clothes, if our mother is hanging clothes,
Yes.
if they're cooking, they're humming a rhythm, or they're humming a song. And a lot of times we don't hear the words, but we hear the rhythm. And so the rhythm is what moves us. But my simple definition is, why, the beginning of African dance is the beginning of Africa. But if you want to do the research, there is nothing that is going to say, when did African dance start?
Right.
Because it started when Africa started.
Okay, so that's the beginning of the world. So it started with us.
Right.
So we are dance.
Right.
All right. Okay, sis, kick us into high gear. Talk to us about West African dance.
Okay, West African dance, I always say, what is dance? Is a social art form that brings the community together. And it brings families together through enjoyment. It relieves stress and tension. It's through religious ceremony, movement throughout the entire body, expressions, emotions, such as sadness and joy. It imitates animals, the universe, the elements of life like the water, fire, earth, and wind. So ancient man and our ancestors looked at all those things, and they noticed that the way the wind turns, and the way the stars moved and shot out, and when the sun came up and the moon went down and all this stuff. So they all utilized that through movement. And so the movement is what caused us to pick up the rhythm, like in the way we talk, like in the beginning of that video that Roshanda showed, where he was making noise with his tongue and his voice and stuff. So that's the rhythm in the way we speak, which where the drums and all that stuff come in, which is part of the language.
Okay. All right, cool beans. Rachel, go ahead and hit that next video for us. I'm about to get it now. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Okay, so let's keep it moving. All right, so I showed that video because now we're going to talk about what? Costumes and masks and our drums. So Luther, talk to us a little bit about what you know about the costuming.
Well, in actuality, the costuming depends upon what dance you're doing. As Felicia said, African people, dance provides one of the most effective means of communication. And dancers can express joy, anger, helplessness. They dance about the harvest. They dance about, you know, the raising of the crops. So again, when you come into the Bantaban, which is the area where they dance, then whoever is doing the dance, that's when the costume is well, the costume is determined before that, but it really depends on what you're dancing about.
Okay. All right. So Felicia, go ahead and dive in with that on our costumes, on costuming.
Okay, well, the costumes, they're usually adorned with a lot of beads, cowrie shells, bells, other types of seeds and stuff that makes noise. And you have the booba or the boo-boo, which is the large garment that they dance. There's a dance called lamba that they do with the wide sleeves and it's open, a lot of fabric. And you have chayos and lapas and all of that. So what it does is it has to move with the wind. When you're showing your spiritual movements or something of the universe or the gods, because you have different gods, which they call orishas. So they're imitating those and they're moving, they're doing particular movements with the costumes. Now that video you showed was the Zoli mask dancer. And most of the mask dancers are spirit masks. They're there to bless the community and the ceremony, the rituals, or whatever. You have the Zola mask is from the Ivory Coast. That's where that particular mask is. And when I saw him, I said, you see where tap dance came from, huh?
Yes, 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 because he was getting it. I was ready. I saw, look, Pam, I saw you in that. I saw the comment in the chat, Pam. Me and Luther are not going to dance, okay? So, okay, so let's dive into. So now let's talk about the mask. So Luther, what about the mask?
Again, the mask depends on what you're trying to portray. If you're dancing about a spirit, if you're dancing to cleanse not cleanse, let's say asking for a blessing, the mask, it can be any shape. It depends on what, I don't think they say tribe anymore, what clan you're from. I should have brought some of the mask, but the mask can be round, the mask can be triangular, they can be painted in various colors with various designs on them. But once again, in my studies, if you're going to delve in deep, you have to really know what you're dancing about.
Yes.
You know, as Felicia was speaking about the clothes, it depends. You got the buba, then you got the Yoruba, which is the blouse. But in West Africa, they're called the kanza, which is a long white kaftan. So again, you know, when you start talking about, it's like I tell my students, don't just say, well, I went to Africa. Did you go to North Africa, South Africa, East Africa, West Africa? Because sometimes the names are different. They're all, the costume may be the same, but it's just like what I have on now. What I have on now is a buba. But if I put the other layer, if I put the other layer on it, it's called a grand buba, you see. So we have to understand that, you know, depending upon where you are, if you're in Central or Western Africa, the dance that you're doing, not like the one that was shown, but when we were there, they were doing a ritual dance. But the colors that they used were taken from a tree. Once you pull the leaves from the tree and the wind hit it and oxidize it, it would turn them red. And his whole body from head to foot was covered in red, I want to say leaves, but they were not leaves. They were the saplings that he had stripped from the tree.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes. Okay, sis, talk to us about the mask.
Okay. A lot of times the mask is a carving, but it's covered with a lot of grass, like raffia grass, or just like the brother said, leaves, or whatever, to make the big gestures of the movement. They have the monkey mask and the kumpo fetish. They have the bird type fetish, which is a kataba, and he's tall on stilts. And some of the masquerade dancers use snake heads, symbols, and stuff like that. And just like the brother was saying, when you want to give blessing at the particular wedding ceremony or whatever, the forest fetish, which would be the kumpo fetish with all the raffia grass, that's the blessing of the forest and all that kind of stuff. So, but you never see the dancer's face in the masquerade. You never see the dancer's face. He's covered from head to toe. He may have other ornaments on top. He may fix the mask where it is tall. It jumps up real tall and shortens, or it may reveal something. I was noticing the chakaba, not the kumpo fetish, from the voodoo dance. It was huge, where they use rings around, big, large rings, and it's covered like a teepee tent with grass. And then they unveil a smaller version when it folds back up underneath, you know. And it's hundreds of them that comes down and it just twirls and twirls, you know. So it can be very colorful. You have the Chihuahua mask, which you can use. I had one in one of my shows for Kwanzaa. We had a Chihuahua mask, and we had the Dugong mask. So you have the different types of masks in West Africa, because remember now, West Africa, it consists of Ghana, Gambia, Nigeria, Algeria, right? Benin. We have Morocco now, because all of that's a part of the Mali Empire. And so we have all those countries, you know, Guinea, Gambia, Guinea-Bissau, you know, Ivory Coast, you know, Mandingo Empire, and all of those. Timbuktu was one of the main universities of West Africa where everybody, Plato, Socrates, everybody came. Because before it was the Mali Empire, it was the Ghana Empire. And everybody came to study and to get educated. And they call it Timbuktu, but it was we say Timbuktu. And everybody got educated there. So all the neighboring regions came together and made an empire. So a lot of the dances and the masquerades are similar. They're all similar because they all got together with this large empire. And when Ghana fell, then King Sadaka took over. And then his Musa sons, Mansa Musa and some of the others took over, you know, then the Mali Empire and all that kind of stuff. So a lot of changes went on because it was a big trading place. For everybody all over the world came because it was the Gold Coast. It had lots of gold, diamond, oil. It had salt. It had manganese. It had all of the minerals and stuff. So people came from all over with camels to transport the trading. So the masquerades, as people travel to the different regions, and they gave they had their own little spin-off on their dance and the way they mask was, you know, just like when you was mentioning the Luther was mentioning the old dances back in the days. And Luther, you know that everybody had their own little style and they spin off when they did the funky chicken and the penguin and all that kind of stuff. Everybody had their own little style, you know. And that's what we like so much about Soul Train, you know. So, you know, so the masquerade, it was designed, the geometric shapes are important too in the mask. They have different shapes and stuff, and a lot of times they mean something spiritually.
Okay. All right, Luther, so go ahead, and go ahead, Luther, and then after this we'll take a break.
I just wanted to add to the fact that, again, we don't want the viewing audience to think that every time you see an African dance, you're going to see masks, because you may or may not. One of the most famous dances that is done is Shango. Mm-hmm. And there are no masses in Shango. And Shango is a ritualistic dance about possession.
Yes.
So don't go to an African performance and thinking that, oh, I didn't see a mask, so it must not be African. Because a lot of dances, especially in the beginning, in 1934, when you had Asada the Fora, they didn't have masks. They didn't use masks. Mm-hmm. You see, and if you go back and you look at the history and the beginning of West African dance in America, or African dance in America, 9 times out of 10, you will not see a lot of the dance companies that were predominantly Black wearing masks. So I wanted to say that so that you don't get hung up on thinking that every time you see an African dance, you're going to see masks.
And that's a great segue. We are going to take our 5-minute break, and what you will be viewing, and it's only 3 minutes, but it's a piece of choreography that I was commissioned to do and to put on the Orchesis Dance Company of Grambling State University. It is called We Dance, and it is from the musical Once on This Island. So we'll take a break, and you can break and watch it, or you can break and leave, but it will be played. And we'll be back right after our break.
Well, that was quite thrilling. Very good. I'm going to say welcome back and just get some quick introductions going while everyone's still coming back from the short break that we have. But I definitely want you to meet some of the management team and friends who are on the video with us tonight, on the Zoom with us tonight. I'd like to start with Dr. Lonnie McCrae. Lonnie, if you would come into the light, as we say, and say hello to everybody. Lonnie is the director for all of the fine arts programs and the English department at Southern University Shreveport and a part of our management team. And there he comes on. I think I stumbled on your introduction, Lonnie. You introduce yourself better.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine, Pam. Thank you. Hello, everyone. Yes, Dean of Arts, Humanities, Social Science, and Education at Southern University at Shreveport, and excited to be here and learning about West African dance tonight. It's been really good so far.
You know, in a few minutes, we're going to ask you to get up and perform. I've ordered some orange and white knee socks for you.
Okay.
All right. All right. And also, Alan Blakeney is on the line. Alan is our documentation expert, along with Fred Moss. I see Alan, though, who is working from Grambling University on our documentation and making sure that all of the performing arts are well represented. Alan, do you want to say hello there? I hate to expose anyone when they're supposed to be on break, but I will say it's great to have Alan here. And also, I noticed earlier that Fred Moss is with us, and Fred is the documentarian for Southern University Shreveport, and he's working with all of us on everything, but certainly also ensuring that the visual arts programs are documented as well as the performing. And also, for everyone to know, Rachel Rosenzweig is on with us. She's part of the management team and tonight's technology director. So we thank you as well, Rachel. If you will, please, the chat room has the survey for your evaluation, and it matters greatly that everyone who's either with us on Facebook Live or tuning in through Zoom takes a moment to complete the survey for this project. If you're on with us through Facebook Live, you'll go to our website, hbcuartisthomecoming.com. And if you'll click on today's date, which is Thursday, September the something, I think we're on the 20, oh boy, wait a minute. I'm sorry. We're on Thursday, September the 24th, the program on the history of West African dance. You can click and complete the survey that way, or if you're with us on the Zoom, you can complete the survey right from the Zoom. And we also hope everyone will put their name and email in the chat room so we can know you're with us. This program is funded through an initial grant from the National Endowment for the Arts, matched by the Carolyn and James Beard Foundation, as well as the Phillips Foundation. And so we hope that you'll give an evaluation so we can apply for more opportunities. All right, I think Roshanda, if you and Luther and Felicia are ready to go, it's time for you to take over the show. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Pam. Thank you for all of that great information. And thank you, Dr. McCrae, for being on, and Alan. Thank you guys for being on. So we talked about, before we left for our break, we were talking about costuming. And so we talked about our costumes, we talked about our mask, which sometimes can be very interesting. And as Luther said, that was a great segue into my dance that didn't have any mask. So he talked about, you know, not having masks does not mean that it's not an African dance. And so that's what you saw. My poor babies were so tired and through with me after I finished with them, but it was good. So let's keep talking about costuming and, well, not necessarily costuming, but our music now. So let's talk about our music. And that is the heart of the dance. So our drums. So Luther, talk to us about our drums.
Well, you have the usual drum, the djembe, which most of them use, and then you have your talking drum. And you have your big round drum, which I can't really remember the name of. But in your drumming, in African dance movement, however, is really only part of the greater whole that may include other elements, such as we have already talked about, music and costuming. Dancing is activity that is dramatic, orientation, performance, attitude, audience response. So once again, what most people fail, I won't say fail to realize, but I think do not realize is that every part of the body may be doing something different, simply because of the music. African dance, African music use polyrhythms. And there you are. Your head is doing one thing, your arms are doing something else, your legs are doing one thing, but most of the action comes from your torso and your arms. So we deal in those rhythms when we're dealing with the drums. And when I mentioned that you have the talking drum, if Roshanda and I are playing drums, it is what they call in anything, call and response. Roshanda will play a rhythm, and then I will respond back to her with that rhythm. That's why they say it is a form of communication. You see, we have to talk when we are using the music. Unlike in America, you have the words. Well, in African dance, a lot of times you don't have the words.
No words.
You have no words.
There you go.
You see, and so it becomes very, very important for you to understand the rhythm of the music, because a lot of times they think that you are keeping up with the music, but in actuality, the drummer is keeping up with you. You see, so he is playing according to your movement and your inspiration. So, you know, that's one of the things that I've learned when Dr. M. Bachau told us when I studied in West Africa, in Senegal and Dakar and the Gambia, is that, you know, there are a lot of other elements to actually saying that, you know, I'm going to study African tradition and African dance.
Good. Okay, sis, give us some more insight.
Thank you, Luther. Very well said. I'd like to say that the drum is the foundation for the movement, for the rhythm. It dictates the breaks, the transitions in the movement or the dance. It tells the dancer when to start and stop. It has vibrations, and it's usually accompanied by the djembe, the doom doom, or two djembes and a doom doom, because you have the slap, the tone, and the bass. And the bass drum is the doom doom, boom boom boom, boom boom boom, boom boom boom, boom boom boom. That holds the bass. So usually the dancer is paying attention to that bass rhythm, even though you have that lead drummer doing a whole different thing. You know, and also it depends on the choreography, because we have to say West Africa was the first to have choreography. And so just like we saw the Foley dancer with his feet moving with the drums, or sometimes it's the bells or something, whatever it is. I have a djembe drum right here. This is a djembe drum here. And it's usually two or more of these here. And this drum here is made out of solid wood in one unit, carved from the base of the tree. The top part is goat skin. Okay, this is goat skin. And they stretch that raw hide out and stretch it out. And then they have a ring right here where they roll the skin up. The strings is what tunes the instrument. So you may see the djembe drummers tightening the string part to tune it. And when you want to get a better sound, you put heat on it. You let it sit by a heater or something and let the skin get softer. And then they stretch it and whatever. But this is the djembe here. And it's played by the master drummer, and other drummers follow. Other drummers follow with the bass slap beat. But the lead drummer is the one doing all the talking. And the bass and the doom, I have a doom, but it's real big, so I didn't think you could see it. But it's a big straight barrel drum. Sometimes it's 2 or more of them together, and they get it boom, 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 boom. So it's hitting it together, and it's all putting that dance together. But when it's time for the dancer to make their transitions, he may go boom, 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 boom. That was a change in the transition to tell us it's time for the next step, or it's time for the next group to merge in one dance. You may have a group of dancers coming in, and then all of a sudden the rhythm start changing, and it'll let us know. It's just like in regular American music, we call it a concerto or something, you know, when it goes, you know, let us know, okay, it's getting ready to change, you know. So that's what I want to say about the djembe drum. We have other instruments like the cowbell, and I have it, but I didn't bring it, and the shakeré. It's a shakeré. And these are cowrie shells on it. A lot of times it's beads on it. And this is a gourd. This is a gourd. This is a squashed gourd here. And they take this shakeré and they string it up to this, and it makes a sound along with the drums. And it shakes like that. So that's what this is. Or you can just tap it with your hand. You can tap it with your hand. Well, that's a shakeré. We have other things like the wood block and the log drums, which is just a solid wood log with holes in the middle. And you just hit it with a stick. And it has a nice tone as well.
Okay. Lucy, did you have something to add?
Yeah, I wanted to add to when Felicia was showing them the djembe. At the bottom of the djembe has a hole. It is not a solid. It's not a solid piece. And the reason being that we don't dance in shoes when we're doing West African is because the rhythm leaves the drum right, goes through the ground and comes up to your feet, And that is one of the reasons why we do not wear shoes when we're doing African drum, when we're doing African dance. And I just wanted to add that because that was one of the things that were told to us as we went into our studies, why it has that hole in the bottom. And as Felicia said, you know, there are all different kinds of instruments that we use to make different rhythms when we're dancing right there.
Okay. All right, Rachel, go ahead and cue up that next video for us.
Feel the difference 100% cotton makes. No mystery materials. Lola, new at Walmart.
I'm sorry, me and Luther are conversating. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So I was trying to give you a visual of some of the costuming and the drums and how they look when you are dancing. So now let's talk about you guys a little. We're gonna delve in a little bit deeper. Luther, talk to us about your influences. Who were some people, who were some dancers, instructors that influenced you throughout your life?
Throughout my dance career, again, as I stated earlier, I started at Florida A&M University, and my instructor was Miss Beverly A. Barber. Every year, every spring and fall, we did a concert. And every year in that concert, there was an African piece choreographed by her. So she was my mentor. We brought in, under the Orchestra's Club, they brought in dancers like Felicia has said. We brought in Alvin Ailey. We brought in Jose Limon. We brought in a lot of dance instructors. And some of those dance instructors, again, like Dudley Williams, he gave us a class one day, and I thought he was by far the meanest man that I have ever met. He was just, it was just like, okay, since I cannot break your arm, you know, I'm going to hurt your feelings as much as I can. But, you know, we were, as dancers, we are taught to be not taught to be thick-skinned. We're not thin-skinned. When I left Florida A&M University and came back to Shreveport, I was introduced to Chuck Davis of the Chuck Davis African American Dance Ensemble. He became one of the individuals that was most instrumental in my really learning and understanding West African dance. They started out, well, they came to Shreveport under the auspices of the Theater Performing Arts, director Miss Gloria Christopher Gibson. Well, Gloria would almost bring them almost every year. And one of the years that they came, they stayed at my house. And I had a big front yard. And so I got off from work and I had these people laying in my front yard, hanging in the trees. And I'm like, you all, you can't do that. You cannot do that. And one of the guys made the statement that, you know, well, in New York, we don't have a lot of trees unless we go to Central Park. Well, I understood that. So it wasn't no big ado. When it came to cooking, it was a little bit different because they didn't eat pork. And when I cooked greens and cornbread, I put in salt pork, fat back, and all of that. After Chuck Davis, well, dealing with Chuck Davis was one of the individuals that said, okay, Luther, I do an African safari. You need to save your money and you need to come to Africa. And that's what I did. I got a grant from the state to go to Africa to study West African dance and culture under the Chuck Davis African American Dance Ensemble. And ever since then, coming back to Shreveport, I've had a better understanding of how I am to do dance when it comes to African dance on stage. While in Africa, we learned a lot of things. In Africa, again, one of the most influential teachers I had was Dr. Mba Chow. And he told us that we do not call it the door of no return anymore. That's where the slaves would exit to go to the ships.
Yes.
He said, we just don't call it the door of no return anymore, because a lot of you are returning to Africa to get an understanding about your heritage and your culture. The only thing that I found amusing for me was when we were studying culture, whereby in yesteryear, the women would eat where they ate and the men would eat where they eat. And we had to eat with one hand behind our back, which was our left hand. And I am left-handed.
Oh, wow.
So for me to actually grab the food with my hand, really, I think my body ate more food than my mouth. But one of the things that were really important is that when they started, there is a picture that I have. I don't know whether you all will be able to see it, but yeah, it's African dancers and in doing in West Africa. And one of the things that I found out was that, you know, I was always amazed that most of the women were always topless. And he told us, when I asked a question in class, he said, well, the breasts are not for the men. The breasts are for the babies to get food and to get nourishment. And here in America, we just go crazy over breasts. And I thought, I was like, okay, then when I get back to America, I'm going to have a better understanding when we do West African dance. We did one piece in Longview, Texas, and I was so afraid, and that was after I came back, that there was going to be an African person from Africa in the audience. And sure enough, in Longview, Texas, there was. And I said, God, please don't let me offend him. Mm-hmm. So when we finished the piece, he came up to me and said, you so reminded me of home. And wow. I felt so humbled by that. Amen. When he told me, it just made me realize that I had consumed those things that were necessary to affect an audience when it came to my culture and my heritage.
Mm-hmm. That's good. Ashe.
Yeah.
All right, Felicia. You're muted, sister. So unmute yourself.
I'm sorry. I was introduced to, I was a modern dancer at first. And I saw the group Kumpo with Papa Ibrahim Kamara, Masamala, Niai, Baja, and they were performing at Southwest College, and I was attending at the time. And I was so enthused with the group. And I think it was Kumpo was the name of the group. And I got their number because someone had asked me, I had did a dance off of Nina Simone, 4 Women. And James Burke from the Inner City Culture Center asked me to attend Inner City. But somebody asked me to do an African dance. And I didn't know anything about African dance, West African dance. And I thought about it. I said, now I'm doing everybody's dance except my own.
That's right.
Know? And I said, something's wrong, you know. So that's why when I saw that Papa and Niai and Masi, I got their phone numbers because I wanted classes, but I didn't attend yet. I got lucky and found out that Eartha Kitt was teaching West African at the Watts Towers with Tabula as her assistant. And she was teaching us West African, the dances of the Orisha, the Haitian, because Eartha Kitt was a Dunham dancer. She was a Dunham dancer. So she was teaching us all of that. And that's where I first learned West African. Later on, I went to Inner City Culture Center because James Burke, he was the director at the time. And lo and behold, I took Lady Helena Walker, and she taught Dunham. She was a Dunham dancer, and she taught Horton. So I learned Haitian, Caribbean, and Horton at Inner City Culture Center. Later on, I took classes with Ibrahim at the Malcolm X Center. He was teaching West African. And Nzinga, that's where I met Nzinga and some of the other dancers. And Kepra, and, you know, all just hundreds, lots of drummers, lots of dancers. And because I was a tap dancer, I was able to pick up real fast.
Catch it really quick, yes.
And I always would dance by the best dancer.
Yes.
That was gonna give me a hard time. So
yes.
I pick up real quick. You know, they forced me to work hard, you know.
Yeah.
So that's where I studied West African. Later on, I auditioned with the Wanda Lewis Dance Company in Los Angeles. And she would bring Papa and Masamala. They would come in and teach us West African. And also she taught Dunham and Horton and Caribbean and the dances of the Voodoo, the Orishas and all that stuff. And we went on tour with them. So that's where I learned my African dance from.
Okay, so who influenced you though, sis? Because I know there were several people that you were influenced by. I know you made mention of Eartha Kitt. You made mention Dunham, and who else?
Ibrahim Kamara.
Okay.
No, because he danced also, Ibrahim, he danced with the National Ballet of Guinea and Senegal.
Okay.
He worked you. He worked you. Lady Walker, Dr. Latham, Masamala, Nzinga, Niai, you know, everybody, a lot of the artists in Los Angeles, everybody influenced me, you know.
Okay. Rachel, do we have another video right now? Is there another video before we, if not, I can keep going. I just wanted to make sure I'm looking at my notes here.
Our final video is the, no, we have.
Okay. Okay. All right. So let's keep it moving. And so we're getting ready to close out. We have about a little less than 10 minutes. So this is something I wanted to talk to you guys about. Culturally, because the world is just, you know what the world is today. We know what it is. And I know you know the answer to this question. I'm just going to ask it anyway, because it just needs to be asked. Do we need to reach back and grab our children culturally through dance, through West African dance? Because it appears that they are running astray and they're running to things that are not godly, that are not nice, that does not seem to be community oriented, you know. So do we need to do that? And how do we do that, if you know the answer to that? Luther, let me get you first.
Well, I would say that not only just West African dance, but dance period, and maybe any art form period. Because if you are dealing with a true art form and a true artist who let's say have to work their art in order to be paid and not work an 8 to 5 job in a sense, then that takes discipline.
Yes.
Too many of us have allowed our children to follow behind things that are being presented by other individuals that are not a part of our clan or a part of our tribe or a part of our community.
Yes.
There are too many things out there that parents allow their children to be involved in that doesn't require any responsibility. Mm-hmm. That's number one, as far as I'm concerned. Again, our children can say anything they want to anyone they want and don't have to worry about retribution. And again, my simple example is simply this. Where I grew up, you couldn't use the word lie. That's number one. Children throw the word lie around like it's water, like you taking a bath. Oh, you just lying, you lying. Your mama lying, your daddy lying. You see, we couldn't do that. Correct. And all that rolling of the neck and rolling your eyes and making little noises with your mouth. Yes. See, you would be looking for your head. That's number one. And there are too many things on television that make us think that we as Black people can do anything. And the bottom line is that we can't. We can't. Because number one, we are not in control of anything.
There you go.
We think because we have a fine house and a nice car and a nice job that we're running something. And we ain't running nothing. Right. because you still have to go to certain other cultures to get what you need. Now, until we start building our own Empire State Buildings, until we start running our own World Banks, until we stop worrying about somebody say you live in the ghetto, because I didn't know I lived in the ghetto till somebody told me. And they weren't black when they told me.
Wow.
But see, living in the ghetto is based on economics. Yes. It is not based on how you're really living, because you couldn't have told me that I was poor. Because my daddy worked, my mama stayed at home. We had food, I had money in my pocket, I had nice clothes, I got my hair cut by the barber coming to my house. I didn't have to go to the barber shop. So we need to get back to the root of our culture here in America and then infuse it with what we have learned in Africa. Because once we came over as slaves, we had to learn how to survive on our own, because NASA wasn't worried about us surviving. So again, you are, what was, but what is now. There are just too many things on television that pull our children away from a good understanding. You want to worry about, well, why my child got pregnant at 15? Look at your television. Your television will tell you why your child got pregnant at 15.
That's good. Okay, sis. So I'm going to give you a twist, because Luther did good on that question. So what do you mean by dance as healing? Talk to us a little bit about that. We're running out of time, so do it quickly.
Dance as a means of healing.
Yes.
That was when I started my organization called Grassroots in 1986. And what I was doing is, it was the high period of the gang violence and latchkey children in LA,
yes.
kids selling drugs at the park and all that. And everybody couldn't play football. Everybody
That's right.
couldn't afford to play football and basketball teams and all that kind of stuff. So the kids that were left behind were the kids that I grabbed and started teaching them dance. And I started a performing arts workshop with them where they learned about West African dance, modern ballet, tap, performance, and mask making, and poetry, and stuff like that. So what I was doing, I was taking the art to heal.
Yes.
Give the children enough to express themselves, to be creative, to create their own dance, to get on stage with professional artists and let the drummers lead the boys and the women led the girls. And
yes.
They could know their place.
That's great.
And we
That's
did
great.
That for years. I had different children. I did my workshop with children at the Watts Tower, the parks, LA County Parks and Recreation, and some of the other organizations, because at that time, funding was cut. The CETA program was cut.
They always cut us. They always cut the arts.
All these other programs that kept a lot of the artistic organizations going, we didn't have any more programs. So that's why I called it the Arts as a Means of Healing, Arts Advocacy for At-Risk Youth, because I was dealing with latchkey kids come from a generation of gangs, kids that were in gangs, and working with them, going through the school district, putting them on stage, providing all the costumes. My mom made all the costumes.
She sure did. Remember I told y'all about my story and my dresses. My mom used to lay it down with costuming guys.
And what we did, we just passed it on through generation to generation and added to it and stuff. And then the kids had to learn how to make their costumes and stuff too. But they had a chance to learn about what it was like to be a performer, when to come on stage, when to leave stage, I had a mistress of ceremony, Adrian Bowsley. She was our poet. I had poets get on there. I had the kids create their own poets. We did the spoken word festival. We did all the festivals. And the kids had a chance to experience culture and stuff, you know. So that's
and we didn't, go ahead, sis, go ahead. Finish your last sentence.
So arts as a means of healing gave kids the opportunity to heal, to get away from being home alone, to get away from being in the streets or subjected or getting jumped in to gang violence. Because at that time, we was at the height of the gang activity. It started when I was in high school. I went to one of the worst schools in LA. And that's where I saw it started. You know, we had the Crips, the Cribettes, and the Bloods, and all this other stuff. And then it expanded through the 80s. And it was kind of like at its height, because now kids are selling drugs and all that kind of stuff. And I would actually find dope in their hands. I would actually say, "What's in your hand? Let me see." And I would take it from them.
Yeah.
You know, and pull them in to dance. And it gave them a chance to, even the children with disabilities. It gives the artistic children. The artistic children love drums, love percussions. And they just, you know, they bang on it, they hit it, they get involved, they want to dance, they want to move. It's excellent for artistic children.
And we'll talk about that a little bit more on our next session, because Luther and Felicia will be back with me, guys. Yay! And we will be discussing jazz dance and modern dance. And we'll talk more about some industry things, about getting into the industry and your work toward that, if that's what you're interested in. But I am so excited. Pam, I know she wanted us to dance, Luther, but I don't know if I can do it right now.
I want to see you all. I'm going to bring you the orange and white tights and the raffia for next week.
But thank you both again. I have been thoroughly enriched on tonight, and hopefully those who are watching on Facebook Live and who are here with us on this Zoom, you have learned a wealth of knowledge. Thank you so very much. Pam?
All right, so please, if you are on the Zoom, make sure you've got your name and your email in the chat room for us as a participant. Please make sure you look in that chat room and see the website. Just click on that for a survey for a review. We are on Thursday night, and very excited that on Monday night coming up, we're going to have an incredible session, a 3-hour session with Dr. Sharon Green, who will be talking about the role of visual art, music, costumes in film. How is it that the arts affect your feeling and your mood, and set the stage for film on Monday night. Also on Monday night, you'll have your first session with Brent Lattin, who is working with Roshanda on the production end of seeing all of these alumni perform. Luther, let me say that again. Seeing all of these alumni perform live in what will be a virtual streamed performance that debuts on Saturday, October the 24th. Then on Tuesday night, you're right back here with Roshanda again, and Luther, and also with Felicia. So we thank you so much. And then on Wednesday night, really, whether you are a performing artist or a visual artist, the diva of music in Shreveport, Brenda Wimberly, performs and presents her workshop every Wednesday night. And next Thursday, we're back with Roshanda, and on the visual channel with Eric Francis. So thank you. Do the evaluation. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you right back here on Zoom on Monday. Good night.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.